It's on.
Welcome to the Mount Vernon City Council work session. My name is Caitlin Gleason. I'm City Council President this year. Lucky me. We are in the Memorial Room of City Hall because we're doing some repairs to City Council chambers. Tonight, we are welcoming the Alexander Group. They are here to make a presentation regarding a property 140 East Prospect Avenue here in the city of Mount Vernon. After that, we will go straight into our tally sheet session. I would just like to let you know that there is an exit to the rear of the room, your left. Emergency exit stairs down the rotunda. The gentleman's room is right outside the door here. Down the hallway is the ladies' room. Outside the planning commissioner planning offices, there is an AED machine. If you don't know what an AED machine is, it's an artificial defibrillator, just in case of emergencies. I would like everybody to please look at your cell phones, turn the volumes off. If you need to have a conversation on your phone, please remove yourself from this meeting. Okay, with that being said, who would like to begin? All right, come on, Nick. State your name.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Alexander from Alexander Development Group, and I am the project manager for this job. First, I'd like to thank you all, City Council, for having us here today. It's been a journey for us to get here, but I'd also like to give thanks to my team and to the city staff and to the council consultants for this collaborative effort on working on this great project that, you know, it's been a long time coming. So we're happy to be here. Just a quick recap of how we got here. We submitted our application a few years ago. At that time, the city decided to embark on a city plan, and we wholeheartedly embraced that because it gave the city an opportunity and us an opportunity to see what the residents of Mount Vernon want from the city and how to tackle those different issues. And so in response to that, you guys issued and passed a downtown vision plan in January. And at that time, we embarked on a journey to revise our application entirely to conform to that vision plan in response to that phase 1 study that the city conducted. And so what you see here before you is a revisioned building. We originally started out with a 30-story tower. Due to the studies that you guys did in the vision plan, the height is now 21 stories, and so it was significantly reduced. And when we reduced that building, the form was affected significantly. And so it became a really squat tower at that time. And so we needed to scrap the idea. We took a look at some of the other buildings in Mount Vernon. We noticed that a lot of brick was used, some terracotta, some slate. And so we also looked at some different buildings in New York City. And we looked at how they incorporated those different materials in some contemporary designs. And so I shared that imagery and those designs with our architect, Perkins Eastman, and they did a wonderful job, I think, putting this new design together. You know, we want to marry two ideas here. We want to think about the historic materials and uses in Mount Vernon, but at the same time, you know, we're also trying to create a new identity in the downtown area here. And so, you know, we want this building to have some pizzazz and be striking visually. We don't want it to be just another brick building or another glass building that you might see in Yonkers or New Rochelle. We want this to have its own identity, something that people are excited about, something that, you know, the millennials can be pumped about in you know, a new re-burgeoning area of Mount Vernon. And so that's what we've come up with here. I hope you like it. You know, before we get to the actual design and form of the building, I'd like to introduce our attorney, Steve, so that he can talk to you about the zoning parameters that are used to get here. And these zoning parameters are also in response to the vision plan.
Thank you, Nick. Would you mind going to the next slide? So just to introduce myself, my name's Steve Rabel. I'm with the law firm of McCullough, Goldberger and Stout. I'm the attorney for Alexander Development Group. My portion is going to be very brief. I just want to touch a little bit on some of the larger key zoning concepts that we're looking at that help drive us to the building that we're going to be reviewing this evening. And you can see there, it's a bit of a 3D location plan to give you a sense. I know you're all familiar with the location in downtown Mount Vernon, but you can see here, it's very short walking distance to the Mount Vernon East train station, and was identified as part of your downtown vision plan as being an area for higher density development. So if we could go one more slide, actually. Oh, maybe one more after that. This is the site itself. Here we go. So this is, again, very, very high level, some summation of some of the key zoning parameters that we've looked at. Again, this is the product of several years of working with the city and the Alexanders and its consultants, and also reviewing your downtown vision plan. So what we've proposed, which we hope you're as enthusiastic about as we are, is a new transit-oriented development zone. We call it the TOD1. Again, the language is generally intended to be consistent with the downtown vision plan. And we've also tried to make the language, which we're hoping to file in the coming days, weeks, or months, to be easily malleable if you're considering additional downtown districts. But the key elements of our district is increased density, which we know is critical to achieving the building and the unit count that we're looking for. So we're looking for an 8.0 FAR. We're looking for maximum height of 18 stories, which can then be increased to 21 with a bonus, a height bonus based on either a certain percentage of affordable units provided or a construction fee based on total construction costs. Again, consistent with that downtown vision plan. We kept the same minimum lot area as the current underlying RMF 15 zoning district, so as to not create any non-conforming lots. Uses, we're expanding on the RMF 15. Obviously, we're looking at multifamily and mixed use, but we're also incorporating the neighborhood business and the CB district uses as well. Parking, we're looking at a 0.5 off-street parking space for studio and one bedrooms, 0.75 for 2 bedrooms and larger. The idea there, again, being transit-oriented development. We're expecting a lot of commuters to be interested in this project, walking to the Mount Vernon East train station. So those are really the high-level zoning elements. I don't want to get too into the weeds on specific language, because I know this is the initial work session, but to give you an idea of the concepts that we're considering. So now I'll turn it over to Stuart Lax, and we can get into the fun part, which is what does this look like and how's this project going to work? Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Haven't seen you in a couple of years.
I was going to start by saying, yeah, it's an honor to be back for the Stuart Lax with Perkins Eastman, architects for the Alexander Development Group on this. We were also the architects for the 42 Broad Street project that has finally reached completion after a long journey. For this site, which we think is a great site at the corner of Prospect in Portugal, just down the street from the train station. This is a conceptual design that shows what could be done within the outlines of the zoning that will be before you shortly, that were sort of proposed for the district, and as Steve has just talked about. It is a 21-story tower. It's mixed use. We have retail at the base. We've got parking that's sort of mixed in the middle, and that parking serves both the apartment uses and the retail uses, and then obviously 20 stories or so of residential with some setbacks and towers. You can see that in the rendering. You see that in a couple of other renderings on the next slides. This is the ground floor plan. You can see in blue where the retail is, and we've made that corner plaza, and we've extended the retail on both Portugal and Prospect, and widened the sidewalk on Portugal from where it is now. Very nice narrow sidewalk, setting the building back from the property line, making a more welcoming pedestrian passageway for not just our residents from this building, but from the neighborhood, to give them that pleasant and active path to the train station. We've also got our main lobby, and then obviously garage entrance and in and out on Prospect, and an exit on Portugal, as well as loading within. You get the hint of the ramp. We're proposing to utilize stackers. You've seen them in a number of garages in New York City. They've become more and more automated, and that would allow 3 cars in the footprint of one parking space, but requires additional height. So not included here, but we've allocated for that over 2 levels to reach all 300 some odd parking spaces in the building. Next slide, please. So really, this is sort of the money shot. This is the view looking at the corner of Portugal and Prospect, and the vision down, to the train station. Shows the active corner, piece of sculpture in the middle, some retail potential there. Next slide, please. And this is sort of an aerial shot looking a little further north back towards the corner, and you get a sense of the setbacks. And we really tried, as Nicholas said in the beginning, we want to make a new and exciting building for Mount Vernon, but one that fits and has a place, and obviously shows that it comes from this sense of place, not just plucked from anywhere and put into Mount Vernon. So some of the materials and the color and the rhythm of the grid inspired by, but not mimicking the buildings in Mount Vernon. And there's a series of setbacks. So we'll have at the 4th floor, we'll have a setback, and we're considering, none of this is set in stone yet, but considering a pool for the residents and another outdoor amenity space. Next slide, please. And then here, this is sort of from Elm looking back towards Prospect, and you can see within, and again, the number of massings that we've made the building out of to break up the overall form and size. And again, this is consistent with the proposed zoning, which requires a series of step backs, perhaps in some ways similar to the New York City codes, the 1916 codes, so that we do not have a sheer wall all the way down to the face, but we've opened up some daylight and broken up the mass. Next slide, please. And this slide sort of talks about that, gives you some overall facts and figures of the building. 350 units over the 21 stories, a little over 200 parking spaces, 7,000 square feet of retail, FAR of 8. Again, that is entirely consistent with the zoning. We've worked to appreciate the input from your planning commissioner and the city's consultants in helping us craft this. And 60% open space, which includes both the courtyard, the sort of roof decks that you see in yellow on some of those upper floors, as well as amenity space within the building. A number of the units have balconies as well, give that sort of open space. Next slide. Yep. I'll hand it over to Mark. We'll give you.
Okay, so good evening, folks. Thank you, Stuart. So I'm going to take a step back and talk a little bit about 42 Broad, because 42 Broad is emblematic of what we're trying to do here. 42 Broad is now almost 75% leased. Close to a majority of our residents are either current or former Mount Vernon residents. Our median income is over $150,000 a year. We're going to be paying, starting next year, about $600,000 a year in taxes. And the year after, when we're fully rented up, we'll be paying over $1 million a year in taxes. We're paying $100,000 a year to the city for the garage surrender agreement. We paid close to $3 million during construction and fees and sales tax. That's the city's share of sales tax, not the whole sales tax. It's turning into an economic engine for that part of Mount Vernon. And that's what we envision here. The downtown needs folks with money that can spend that money in local shops. Every time somebody gets an Amazon package, that's a 4% tax, sales tax to the city of Mount Vernon. Every time they shop at a local restaurant, every time they shop at a local grocery store, there's sales tax for the city of Mount Vernon. We think that this, in addition to those benefits, so this project, again, over $1 million a year in real estate taxes. During construction, we project this project to generate over $5 million in taxes and fees. Just this Department of Building fee for the permit for this building is expected to be $1 million. 42 Broad was $565,000. So one permit for one building, $1 million. We spent over $35 million in the immediate vicinity, Mount Vernon and immediate vicinity on vendors and on product during construction on 42 Broad. We're committed to spending $30 million or more on this project. We expect the median income units in this building will be a bit smaller than 42 Broad. So we think the median income will probably be a little bit lower in this building than at 42 Broad. But we think it'll be at least $125,000 a year. So we think that all told, this building is going to be a huge economic engine. And as Nicholas and the design staff has pointed out, a beacon of hope and a beacon of the future for this city. It's fully consistent with the vision plan. And next slide, please. That the city council adopted in January. And in addition to those economic benefits, there's some very real benefits to the neighborhood. Portugal Place right now is a very narrow street. It gets crowded with cars, and it has 5-foot wide sidewalks on our side of the street. And on the Portuguese Club side of the street, there's a section that has no sidewalk at all. We're widening our sidewalk to 12 feet, I believe on 12 on Prospect. Yeah, 15 feet on Portugal Place. And we're creating a plaza at the corner, like we did at 42 Broad, to create an area for people to congregate, to sit, perhaps have an outdoor cafe. But again, Portugal Place is the primary access point, is the primary corridor to the Mount Vernon East train station from the north. And yet it's a mess right now. It's just not very accommodating. It's not welcoming to people coming to the city, and it's not giving a nice goodbye and welcome to folks returning to the city. So we want to change that. And so we're expanding the sidewalks. We're landscaping the sidewalks. It'll be well lit. There'll be a public art project on the corner. The utilities on our side of the street will all be hardened and underground, so we won't have overhead utility poles. And because we are going to be 100% market rate project, we're going to be contributing over $500,000 to a neighborhood improvement fund that's part of the zoning being adopted. So that $500,000 can be spent perhaps on the streetscape in front of the train station, on Elm, or perhaps on other hardening of other utilities elsewhere in the neighborhood. So we're creating an economic engine for downtown, a visual beacon for downtown, and improving the streetscape and quality of street life in the immediate neighborhood of our project. We think that's a home run for the city of Mount Vernon, and we think that the 42 Broad project represents the sort of vision of the future of this city that all of us can and ought to embrace. I was at the swimming pool with my grandson at 42 Broad a couple of weeks ago. First time I'd gone to the swimming pool. My grandson is, my wife is Ecuadorian, so I'm going to get into ethnicity just for a minute, just to paint a picture. My grandson is mixed parentage. His father is all Euro. His mother is half Ecuadorian. There was a Hispanic mother with her 10 or 12-year-old child at the poolside. There was a Hispanic blue-collar worker who lives in the building, whose wife apparently works at a local Y, and their 4-year-old son in the pool. There was a white-collar worker with his 2-year-old son. There was 2 Black elderly folks, an empty nester household that had sold their house and moved to 42 Broad. And there was another Black woman with her 12-year-old child. All of those children were playing together, every single one of them. The 12-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 4-year-old, the 2-year-old, and my 3-year-old grandson. They were all engaging. That's what we're trying to build here. It was a beautiful sight. It was beautiful for me to participate in that beautiful warm afternoon at 42 Broad. And that's the kind of environment that we want to build here at Mount Vernon East. Thank you all very much. And if you have, I think that's it. We have our planner team here. We have our architect team here. We have our our lawyer team here. They've been meeting with your consultants for the last several months. So if you have any questions or thoughts or comments, we very much welcome them. This has been a collaborative process. I just want to end on this. This has been a very, very collaborative process. Our intention here is to be delivering to you exactly what you want. And so to the degree that maybe, Brad and Pat and my team got it wrong, that's okay. We can fix it. But that's the intention. There's been a lot of collaboration between Brad and Pat and Frank and James. Oh, James, Rouse, city, you were behind that. And the planning commissioner and his team of professionals, and Steve Warbell and us. So that's the intent here. The intent here is not to say, this is it, vote on it tomorrow. The intention here is to start a process now with you folks that hopefully will, over the next 2 to 3 months, result in both hearings and a vote.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander. We really appreciate it. I'm going to adhere to Councilman Thompson to start the question process. Go right ahead.
Hi. Really nice presentation. I just had a couple of questions just for the record. 100% market rate project, right? 42 Broad has 246 units, I believe, somewhere around there. And this project is gonna have 350 units. And you said the units at this project are gonna be smaller than 42
Somewhat
Broad.
small, but yes.
So do we have a number on that, or?
We don't have a final number on that. We do have I think we've submitted some numbers initially. That is going to get tweaked over the course of the next few weeks. But our intention is to be around 65% studio and 1-bedroom units and 30% 2-bedroom units and 5% or a little less than 5% 3-bedroom units. All the three, like at 42 Broad, there will not be an entire line of 3 bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms will all be on higher floors. And yes, it's 100% market rate, which means no pilot, which means we're paying full taxes, full fees, full freight on everything.
Okay, that was just my question, and I like the idea of balconies. So that's always a great selling point. Especially after COVID, people want those personal spaces. So absolutely. Thank you, President.
Okay, Councilman Box Hill?
Yeah. Similar to Councilman Thompson, that was my question about the size. I mean, of course, generally speaking, I'm supportive of making money for the city, and this is something beautiful for our downtown. I think this would look great. Obviously, there's a lot to still flush out, but you were talking about that when you said smaller. You're talking about the individual units. We're talking about actual smaller square footage per unit. So a 1-bedroom is going to be.
Yeah.
smaller.
So look, a large cohort of the folks from Mount Vernon that are living at 42 Broad are younger folks, meaning, your age,
Okay.
30, 20, 27, 28 to 40. That's kind of the majority. So folks that grew up in Mount Vernon, maybe left, and now they're returning. And they can't necessarily afford a big 2-bedroom apartment, but they want first-class services. They want all of the amenities, and they can afford $2,500, or they can afford $2,800, or $3,000. And that seems to be the bulk. There are empty nesters, like that elderly Black couple by the poolside that I mentioned. And I believe they live in a 2-bedroom apartment, right? So a lot of empty nesters will leave a house that's 3 or 4 or 5 or however many bedrooms, and they'll want a somewhat larger apartment. But in this particular location, yes, we believe that the unit sizes need to be tailored to who we believe is going to want to rent in this location. And we think that that's generally going to be a younger cohort, sort of millennial and what's the next generation after millennial? Generation X? Gen Z, I'm sorry, I'm showing my age here. I apologize. I have millennial children. I don't know what the hell my grandchildren are, but anyway, they're somewhere in there.
So can we get a little bit more specific? So like in 42 Broad, you would say like a 2-bedroom,
So
one bathroom is like,
studios are going to be probably very similar to 42 Broad, ranging in size from about 425 square feet to
Okay.
500 square feet.
okay,
One bedrooms at 42 Broad have a very broad range. We have some as small as 590, and then we have some as big as 838. We're probably not going to have, if we have any of that larger room, it'll be a handful,
Okay.
because we have some odd location and that's how they fit in on a lower floor. But the bulk of the 1-bedroom apartments are going to be between 590 and 700 square feet.
okay,
Okay. On the 2-bedroom front, we're going to have a bunch of 2-bedrooms that are in the 850 to 950 square feet. And then a few that get close to 1,000. At 42 Broad, all our 2-bedroom 1-baths are around 850 to 900, but all of our 2-bedroom 2-baths are basically 1,000 to 1,200. That's just too big. We can't get it. People can't afford those units, and so we need to size them so that people can afford them.
okay. All right, that
Does that help?
clarifies my question. That was all I had. Thank you. Council
Okay,
President?
is that it?
Yes.
Councilman Potteet.
Thank you, Council President. To the Alexander Group, thank you for your patience here. I know you've been at this for quite a while, and thank you for understanding that we had to finish the downtown vision statement first. And thank you for still showing up and being here. Also, thank you for your commitment to Mount Vernon, right? You raised equity for 42 Broad and debt, and if we move forward, you'll be raising equity and debt for this project too. So thank you. There's a few questions I have. If we could do a deeper dive on the stackers for a second. The parking's going to be on 1 floor or 2?
2 floors. So
Okay.
most of the parking is on the 2nd floor, but there will be some parking on the ground floor.
And the height of both floors would be,
The lower floor, I think, is about 15 feet or so, because the stackers it's about 13 feet for 2 cars, and then the upper level is, I'm gonna say roughly 27 feet, because it's 25 feet for 3-car stackers.
got it. So then, it sounds like stackers makes a lot more sense versus building 2 extra floors for parking, but then stackers get you
It
almost
gets
there.
us sort of the efficiency, so we can use more of the building for apartments and everything else, and not, especially on what works out to be a relatively tight site, just the ramping
Right.
and circling up just eats up a lot of space.
Right, appreciate it.
Mhm.
And also, has your team done shadow and traffic studies?
Yes.
Okay. If you could share that with us when you have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
My name's Frank Fish and I'm with BFJ Planning. We also worked on 42 Broad. You should have, I think you should have by email. Not sure, James, did this go to them? The EIF? So, yeah, so that is in the environmental assessment form.
Got
If you didn't get it, by the way, we can resend this and we can also send you hard copies.
The reason that I'm asking is obviously bringing this density to that site, it's going to have traffic impacts.
Right.
And if you've thought it through, can you give us kind of 5 seconds on
Yeah.
the traffic impacts, and then also on the shadow, a building this tall, which again, density, if it was put anywhere, should be here, but just issues on shadows to the properties that are north of this building.
Yeah, in here, there's an appendix on shadows. It goes through shadows different times of year. And then as the sun rises, where those shadows will fall.
Right.
And then on traffic, what we did is we took both this building, what traffic would be generated from it, And there's also, quite frankly, one other site within the zone. In other words, we looked at, is there any other site that could be developed? There is one. It's actually adjacent to this on East Prospect. That site's big enough to possibly have another building on it. So we made an estimate of traffic from that building. So we think that the traffic, and that was done a little bit by my partner, almost entirely by my partner, George Jacquemart, as the traffic engineer. But I went over that in some detail with George, and it's not going to have a significant adverse impact on the traffic on East Prospect or Portugal. Actually, because there's going to be, we expect in this building, a lot of people who are going to, in fact, take the train. It's a TOD, but we still have to provide enough parking, which we think we're providing. And the parking ratios come partly from a national group called ITE that we took some of those parking standards from, and also, quite frankly, from your department, from James. But we think the parking works and also the traffic in the system will work.
Gotcha. Thank you. Two other quick questions that I have. One is, Mark, as you know, the state now has a 30% MWBE hiring requirement. This is not in any way government funding or any type of government interest in it. But would you be willing to, and you don't have to answer now, make a soft commitment to the city to hire MWBE vendors at a significant number for the project?
Yeah, so again, I mean, our record at 42 Broad, C. Williams Electric was our electrician. He did both the electrical and fire safety system there. I think combined $7 million worth of work on that project. He has an overwhelmingly African-American workforce.
What was the percentage with him being there? What is the percentage?
Well, the electric and, I mean, that total, he was close to, I think about 10% of the total construction cost was just the electrician. We bought $1 million of tile from ProSpec. Now that's an Italian-owned, company, so it doesn't count for MBWE, but it's a local Mount Vernon institution who employs lots of folks from Mount Vernon. Ross Windows. Again, the owner is a Jewish gentleman and his son, but the entire workforce are basically Dominicans. At least that was the workforce that worked on 42 Broad.
Yeah, but they're not, it's not a registered WBE. We're
No,
talking.
I understand, but
No, I just want to be clear here.
I understand. So what I'm trying to do is answer in a nuanced way. So yes, we're committed to hiring locally. Some of those folks are going to be MWBEs. Some of them aren't, because not everybody is. But yes, of course, we value the notion, not just that we're building a building, but we're building community. That is what we try to do, build community. And so we do that both in terms of the planning of the building, who we want to see living in the building, and who we hope will build the building. They have to be qualified. This is a huge building. This is not a 3-family house. And so not every contractor is capable. Even Chris this is going to be a tough job for Chris to get. We're committed to trying to help ensure that he has a shot at it, but and he wants it. And he said, in fact, recently spoke with Nicholas about hoping that he gets a shot at it. And he will get a shot at it. But it's a huge project. This is, 42 Broad was a $7 million. This is probably going to be over $10 million. It's a big chunk of his workforce. And so we want minority workforces and minority-owned contractors and women-owned contractors to work on the site.
So that I would humbly ask if you could just give us goals, right? Again, think through what happened at 42
My
Broad.
goal is a minimum of $30 million of contracts and materials will be purchased locally. What percentage of that can be minority and women owned? I really am not in a position to know, because we've got to figure out who those contractors are. Okay. That's going to be the toughest part of this is going to be making sure that they're qualified
Got it.
for this large of a project.
And then one very last question, your time frame for getting in the ground, because you aren't on the HCR hamster wheel.
Well, if
Um,
the city council can approve the zoning this year, this calendar year, we can be we hope to be in construction by the end of next year.
And what's the delay? I'm just curious.
Excuse me,
What's the delay?
what's gonna fill up all that time?
Yeah.
So after we get the zoning change, we've got to go for a formal site plan approval with the planning board, and we've got to do ARB approval. That's a 3 to 4 month process typically. Once we have those approvals, we have to actually do construction documents. That's at least a 6 to 8 month process. So when you add all that up, we're a year out from city council approval of the zone.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
Councilwoman Brown?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mark, I'm gonna beat you up a little bit, if you can come up here, please.
Sorry?
I'm gonna beat you up a little bit. So, 42 Broad Street came out to be a beautiful, beautiful project, okay? There were, I can't tell you how many complaints during that whole project, right? So, one of the biggest things that came out of that project was the delays, the many delays, right? And I don't know if they were financial, I don't know if they were construction delays, but now we're getting into a building that's going to be 21 stories high. And I believe that's going to be the highest building in the city, right? Oh, Saratoga is what,
21 stories,
21, okay. So,
comparable in height to this.
right. So, my biggest concern, and it's something that came up at 42 Broad Street, is going to be the fire department. A lot of issues that I had with your project while it was going on was actually the control of the site, right? I felt that that we had a lot of pedestrian issues regarding, and we coordinated with the planning department. We're going to have those same issues with this project because a lot of people come from north of Prospect, those buildings right there, the Quincy, all those buildings, and they walk down Portugal Place to get to the
Right.
train station.
Right.
Plus, again, fire department, very large building. Do you guys have any plans on supporting the fire department in any way? And this is just something I'm putting out there. Hold on. Also, infrastructure.
Mhm.
Infrastructure surrounding that building. I assume you're going to do the same thing that you did with 42 Broad Street, but remember during 42 Broad Street, we had was it a sewer collapse in front of the building?
No.
What was that? What was the depression on Broad
There
Street?
was a plate fell in, but that was just an excavation issue.
Hmm.
There was a plate that.
That's
a
all it
metal-
was?
That's all it was.
Okay.
It was just a metal.
So I'm assuming that you're gonna do the same scoping of the infrastructure, the sewer, the water and everything to maintain, and that it would be solely on your cost to replace whatever is deficient.
We will follow essentially the approach that we took with 42 Broad, which is the utilities that are directly connecting to our site will be hardened as necessary.
Mhm.
At 42 Broad, we had to do extra sewer work
Mhm.
to make sure that the doghouse in the street could accommodate the building. We buried the utilities we moved a pole across the street, so there's no utility poles on our side of the street. And we buried the power coming into the site under the street and onto the site to a transformer that's on the site. We widened the sidewalks. We did all the things that I said we were going to do. So yes, we expect to do the same thing here. With respect to the timing of construction, we committed a long time ago internally to find a contractor that is capable of doing this size of the project.
Mhm.
We're currently talking to 2 different contractors, both of whom have extensive experience in Westchester County and in Southern Connecticut. One of them they're both very large, much larger than Banta Construction, the Bluestone contractor. And they both have very solid reputations for delivering buildings on time and on budget. So among the firms that we've talked to recently are Consigli Construction, KBE Construction, which is based in Connecticut. Consigli is based in Massachusetts, but they have a New York office, and so does KBE. And Andron Construction, which is based in northern Westchester County. So those are probably the top three firms that we've talked to. All three of them have extensive experience with large scale projects. KBE is doing a passive house project right now at Bard College and just finishing up a very large senior living development in Harrison. Consigli has, I don't know, a dozen projects, huge projects down in the cities. Consigli is probably one of the top 20 in the country. So they're a big and very, very reputable firm. So that should answer a lot of your concerns. Look, at 42 Broad, we got hit with two major stoppages due to not COVID. COVID was one, but two stoppages due to loss events. Hurricane Ida, right after the elevators were finished by Otis, and they were going to turn the elevators over to us. 6 feet of water got dumped by Hurricane Ida into the elevator shaft the day after they finished. That set us back months. And then some of you that live near the site or frequent the site in December 24th, Christmas Eve of 2022, a pipe froze and burst and damaged 7 floors of finished apartments. So, and that set us back 6 months. So that's not to make excuses. That's just to explain part of what happened on that job. I don't expect COVID to happen again in my lifetime, and I certainly expect the contractor like Consigli or KBE to do a better job.
How long do you anticipate this to be?
It's a full 24-month construction, full 24 months from getting into the ground to topping out, to getting a TCO.
Are you going to be shutting down Portugal Place at any point?
I'm not sure how. We'll go through with the building department on that. There's no question that there's going to have to be some staging that includes some change to the traffic pattern there, whether it's taking a lane from Prospect Avenue or taking a lane from Portugal Place. Portugal Place probably makes more sense, but we'll have to figure that out with DOB.
Okay, the one thing that we had spoken about, Commissioner Rouse, you might want to come to the microphone for so when we were doing the vision deck and a lot of developers had come in, we had asked some of the developers to expand when we changing the zone. And Mr. Alexander was asked to be a part of that, correct? To expand that so that it could
Yes.
kind of decrease the cost on the city a bit. And where are we with that?
Where are we, like,
With,
specifically negotiations?
Yeah.
for-
Mr. Alexander, are you
main
willing to
business.
expand beyond the work site for the change of zone? You're doing,
Yeah, it is the block, is a full block. We haven't gone specific negotiations, like in terms of cost.
okay, I was just,
Far, but it's definitely the whole city block, because here's a site A, there's site B, and just softer sites along Elm. That can be
Okay.
developed as well.
okay, thank you. And
Sure.
Mr. Alexander, the Community Benefit Fund, can you speak to that a little bit? That you said about $500,000 you guys were going to secure?
So I believe the precedent for this, and if I'm not, is Mount Vernon East zoning. There's a community, Mount Vernon West, right? Okay. So in in the city council's rezoning of Mount Vernon West,
Mhm.
it's set up a community benefit fund option for getting bonus, I guess,
Mhm.
height in some of the buildings. It worked. I believe that the amount, the rate is 0.5% of your total construction cost. At
Mhm.
least that's what's in our proposal. So we expect our construction cost to exceed $100 million.
Okay.
And that's where the $500,000 comes from.
Okay, with 42 Broad, I'm just going by memory. I think you guys had put $50,000 in for the playground. Whatever happened with
Yeah, so.
that
so
and the
we-
street signals?
Mhm.
And because and I know one has nothing to do with the other, but it kind of does.
It kind of does. No,
Because
this is a good point.
You're
So look,
building, let me just finish.
Go
You're
ahead.
building, you know, this,
Sure.
this large building.
Mhm.
A block from that large building is a very big intersection, very similar to 42 Broad Street, right? And we still have the issues with the signals and the pedestrian safety over there, right? To be clear, I don't want to have that same situation at Prospect and Park and Portugal. So can you speak to that?
So stuff that is directly under our control, we
Mhm.
got done. We said we were gonna spend $150,000 on a public arts project. We did. We
Mhm.
have Peaceful Journey. We said we would repave the west side, the sidewalk along the west side of,
Well, that was a requirement.
no,
If
no,
I
no,
remember,
those
wasn't that a
no,
requirement?
no.
Okay.
Those were all part of this neighborhood benefits fund. It was all negotiated as part of this. We spent $450,000.
Okay, my
on
mistake. I thought that
neighborhood
was, I
benefits.
thought that was a condition of the application.
Just the sidewalk and some other stuff like that was $50,000
Mm-hmm.
bucks. We moved we got Con Edison to move their pole. That was $30,000 bucks. So a bunch of the stuff that was supposed to get, we widened the sidewalk and planted the sidewalk. So there were a bunch of things that were required of us
Mhm.
that we paid for. Stuff that we were asked to help fund included a comfort station
Mhm.
at the playground
Mhm.
and traffic signal reworking at 3 different intersections.
Mhm.
We spent, any idea how much money we spent with land and engineering? $25,000. So we can't actually change the signals. We can't actually do that work. It's city-owned property and it's,
Mhm.
it's got to be done by the city through an RFP process and with a contractor hired by the city.
Mhm.
But we paid an engineer to come up with a scope of work and a design with the city. That was all done, completed over 2 years ago. Why that work hasn't been done is complicated, but you'd have to speak to DPW about it.
Understood.
Damani.
Mhm.
The comfort station was one of these, we love the idea, but then we hate the idea. And so the city council basically said, no, we don't want you to do that. And so we ended up setting that aside. We put over $100,000 into a escrow fund.
Mhm.
The city now has, and that money was set aside to cover a portion of the cost of the traffic stuff, but
Mhm.
also for paving the streets in the area, because Con Edison tore up a
So
lot.
I
of the
got
streets.
redirected.
It
then.
got redirected.
Okay.
Basically,
Okay.
the money got redirected.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
and it hasn't all been spent, and that's a part that I can't control.
Okay, I mean, I think that's it for myself. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilwoman Brown?
The parking in the project, there's gonna be public parking as well, or is it solely for the rest?
So it's considered ancillary parking, meaning it's sized to accommodate the residents of the building. But what we found at 42 Broad is, in our experience at 42 Broad, is that the residents of the building aren't occupying their car, only a very few cars are occupying the garage consistently, meaning 24 hours a day, day in and day out. The casual user that takes their car 2 or 3 times a month out to shop or go up to their place in the country or whatever. The vast majority of cars that are used by occupants leave the garage every day. And that opens up space for the public to park while they're not in the garage? And so the answer is yes, we expect to make that make the parking available to the public as well. As long as we're allowed to, we'll make it available.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for being here
Guys, very
tonight.
much appreciate it.
We're gonna
Thank you.
take a, does anybody need to take a break? All right, let's keep it going.
All right, folks, thank you all.
All right, have a
very
good
much.
night.
Appreciate it.
Okay. With that being said, we are going to start with. Do we have Commissioner Peters on? Okay. Okay, I think,
Madam President.
Yeah.
1 minute.
yeah, sure, I have one in my bag.
Do you?
Yep.
All right, have a good night. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Okay, next up, we have our Human Resource Commissioner online. Commissioner Peters, welcome to the
Thank
work
you.
session. How
Thank
are you
you.
this
Good
evening?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Thought we had you. Oh, so we should pause? Okay. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with Councilwoman Brown.
She can hear me? That's fine. So Commissioner Peters, I was glad you were able to join the meeting.
you.
Wanted to get some updates from you on just where city policies stand.
Mhm.
If you can give us a general update, that'd be helpful.
Sure. Everyone can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I'm drafting the referral letter for the city's first ever comprehensive employee handbook. So, we actually have a handbook coming out, for you to review and to look at. This is a milestone for the city. I definitely think this will help modernize, our workforce. It'll also help to eliminate confusion, and kind of bring consistency to, employee management overall. So I'm very excited about, the handbook, and putting that before you for your review.
Thank you. So for the handbook, would it include all of the requisite policies required by state law?
Correct. So you want examples of some of the policies included? Hello?
That will be helpful.
All right, so we have the workplace drug-free and alcohol-free policy. We have the employee standards of conduct, the dress policy, breaks for nursing mothers. We have cancer screening, voting time, our electronic communications. We have, of course, the anti-discriminatory harassment, violence in the workplace, FMLA, usually the typical policies that you would find in the handbook.
Can I go again? So Commissioner Peters, will there also be procedures that are outlined so that employees know how to contact someone, who to contact? Is that all in the employee handbook as
Correct.
well?
Yes, it is. So the first pretty much half of the book is all the procedures. How do you report? What the steps are? And then the second half of the book is all our policies in general. So it's to match the two.
you said you're in the process of drafting the referral letter, so
Right.
are we expecting to see that at the next meeting?
Yes, you are.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman Potteet? Councilman Box Hill?
I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to thank you, Commissioner Peters, for the hard work. This is long time coming for the city of Mount Vernon that we have this codified. So thank you, and your efforts don't go unnoticed. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. That's appreciated.
Okay, I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
First and foremost, from the time a complaint is made to when the investigation is completed, can you share approximate times?
It depends on the magnitude of the complaint, but I try to do within 30 days. Sometimes it takes a little bit over. I mean, it depends, like I said, it depends on the type of complaint. And it would also depend on the type of resources that I would need.
Okay, do you typically go out of city government to employ independent human resources or human resource counsel?
I don't, but I do go through our legal department, our law department. So if I need some additional assistance, I would reach out to our law department.
Look forward to seeing the employee handbook, but at this time I have no further questions. Councilwoman Brown.
Sure.
Commissioner Peters, so just from your perspective,
Mhm.
with piggyback off of Council President's question around when a complaint is made, what does the communication to the employees typically look like, right? During that process, do they know, is the timeline outlined to them so that they have a heads up? What does that process typically look like?
So again, it depends on the type of investigation. But I would usually have an update or try to update with the commissioner because I would have to have conversations with the commissioners. And the hope is usually that they would kind of check in with the employees. But it's more a focus on trying to get through the investigation as quickly as possible. So I couldn't say that I have a scheduled check-in with the employee.
Okay, that begs another question from me. So is that typical? That you would leave it to a commissioner rather than communicate directly with the complainant?
I think in most cases so far it has been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Councilwoman, okay, Councilman Box Hill? Hold on, Box Hill's going first.
My only question is,
Mhm.
how, your office, how many people work in there?
So I recently acquired a deputy. So he's about 2 months and some weeks in, and I also now have a new secretary as well, and she's also 2 months in. So it's 3 of us.
And in a fully efficient running office, in your opinion, do you think that you're good, or we have maximized what you need, or do you still think there's some shortcomings in the office personnel wise?
Personnel wise, it would be nice to have additional staff for sure.
Specifically?
I would say maybe another two. Yeah, I would say 2. So
In
about
what
5
roles
people.
do you think?
I think So with the secretary, so maybe more of a coordinator would be helpful. And if someone who, because right now my deputy is also assisting me with labor, with employee relations, someone who can focus also on training for in-house training if we have a specialized, so maybe a specialist would also be helpful. So one medium and one lower ranked personnel.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Peters, do
Mhm.
you create your own budget, correct?
I do.
In your budget, let's say for the past year, have you ever gone out to an outside human resource consultant to try and take some of the burden off you? And if so, do we have an idea of what the cost in that is? Have you ever incorporated that into your budget going forward?
I have not incorporated into my budget. I do rely on our law department.
Anybody else have any other questions? Councilwoman Brown?
Commissioner Peters, you mentioned when we were talking about process, when a complaint comes in, that communication is primarily with the commissioner. Is that typical of HR departments, or have you checked best practices in other municipalities?
When you say best practice, meaning to talk with the commissioner and not the employee, is that?
When I say best practice, I'm trying to figure out how is it done in other municipalities? Is communication primarily with just the commissioner, or is it with both the commissioner and the employee?
I can't say 100% for certain. I mean, but in other, because I know with Yonkers, they also have a little bit more when they do their investigations. It's not just the commissioner. So they have, because they have a bigger department, they're able to kind of do the investigation, reach out to the employees, kind of stay and try. It's a lot more, there's more people so that they can involve more with the employee and they can kind of move it along.
Okay, Councilman Thompson has a question.
Hi, I just, on the same page, I was just wondering, because usually, when any complaints get to the HR, stage, if you will, normally, HR handles everything and they become somewhat of the arbitrator between the commissioner and the employee, and they keep both the commissioner and employee abreast of what's going on, but everything is practically done through HR.
Understood.
Any other further questions? Councilman Potteet? Councilman Boxell? Councilman Thompson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown? You good? All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready to get into the tally sheets? Oh,
Reverend Doctor,
I'm sorry, I did not recognize him.
President of the Lodge,
Ed,
wonderful alpha man.
put your mic there. Okay. We're going into the tally sheet. LPW.
Thank you, Council President. I appreciate the recognition tonight. I want to start with, all right, I'm stalling, I'm pulling up my agenda. All right. Item number 1, I have management services and ordinance authorizing a budget transfer of $30,769.90 for data processing equipment,
From data processing.
from data processing, Equip U A168.0.486 to software and software S. What are these codes? A1680.215 and application services A1680.216. That's on the agenda.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is that a typo there? Equipment U and then software S? I'm just curious.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure. That way we could correct it for the agenda. Apologize. Go ahead, Councilwoman Brown.
Oh, good. I have item number 2, Office of the Mayor, and ordinance authorizing 3 staff members from the mayor's office to attend the city's United 11th Annual Convening in Seattle, Washington. That is agenda pending. First, this is, it says to refresh the public safety plan. I don't recall receiving the first public safety plan. Has anyone else?
No, I haven't seen one.
There's also no agenda on it. It did say in the letter that I think it was early, but it appears to be next month. So yeah, that's agenda pending till we get more information.
Does anybody else have any other questions regarding that? Okay, Councilwoman, I have a question, regarding that. So I was talking to the clerk earlier today, you know, looking back at old agendas and looking at this agenda when anybody went for training, normally we would get the names of the people who are going. So if you could add that to, information seeking, if that's even necessary, or was it the intent to just make it blanket until the mayor decides?
Yeah, so I think for this one, they've always not included the exact staff members. In
Okay.
fact, I recall at one point they took some members from Youth Shelter of Westchester
Okay.
as some partners. But sure, I'll add
Okay.
that to the list.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
My pleasure, Council President. Item number 3, I have Office of the Mayor and an ordinance authorizing the transfer of funds between budget lines within the mayor's office. That's on the agenda. I have
a question.
Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies. Go ahead, Councilman Boxell.
And I guess I should know this because I used to work in the controls office. I don't remember what is the requirement of the charter that requires us to have council transfer funds within the department. If they're within the same group, do we still have to get council approval?
When you say group, what do you mean?
Like similar expenses, like a 400 code to 400, or 300 to 300, or so forth, or
Is that the case here, though? I thought
is
it was
it?
2 different, I don't know.
It's
and-
2 different
and-
budget lines.
It's 2 different budget lines.
Yeah, budget lines. But what is the threshold? Because
There's no threshold. It's essentially we're amending the original
right,
budget.
if we're moving money from the police department to, recreation, for sure. But if we're moving stuff from one line to another line within the same department, within the same category of expenses, like, do we need council approval? Is that what the charter requires? I'm just not sure.
Yeah, it's a different budget line.
Yeah, that's what I
So
want.
I'm not grasping.
I don't know. Can we ask the controller about this?
Sure. Comptroller Morton, would you mind stepping to the podium? I think it would be easier on them, but.
Yeah.
So is you ask your question. I don't want to interpret it because
Is he here?
Yeah, I heard the question. Yeah. So you do, yeah, you do now. You do because the way we adopt the budget. Right? So if we adopt the way we adopt the budget is we adopt the budget down below the point line. Right? So when you look at it is 0, the 100s, the 200s, the 300s, right? And we adopt the budget. When we had looked at the budget, it has the 001 dot, whatever the number may be. So 001 number, right? So when you For the mayor's department is what, 1216? 1210 dot 101, right? Right, and then it'll say 1210 dot 442, 446, or whatever. If we adopted the budget at the 100, at the just the one line, the one, and not the second and the third number, then we would not have to, then you would not have to do it. Because to your point, most governments, right, are adopting the budget at that point number and not at the 0.0 or 0.00 number, which we've been trying to shift eventually to, because then that will allow the commissioner to just move the money within that line. Now, what they would have to do is that if they wanted to move money from the 0.102 line to the 0.204 line, they would have to come to the council to get that approved, because it's moving it from a personnel level line into an equipment line, right? If they want to move it from a .101 line in their line to another department's line, they would have to come to the city council in order to move it, right? If we then started to adopt our budget at the point number and not the 0.00. Right now, because of the way we adopt it, according to the, state rules, we would have to come to the council.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions?
All right.
All right, moving on.
So that one was, no, 3 on the agenda. Item number 4, I have an ordinance authorizing Mayor Sean Patterson Howard to commit a local match for the Green Innovation Grant Program for the South 4th Street Park Green Infrastructure Project. That is on the agenda. That actually looks pretty cool. Did you all see the schematics? So I'm excited for what's gonna happen in 4th Street Park. Item number 5 is an ordinance authorizing the release of a proposal for the development and manufacture of new uniform attire for the Department of Public Works employees. I heard Commissioner Bush is online. Yes. Yeah, why do we need an RFP for a design of DPW uniforms? And do we know what the budget is for this? Commissioner Bush, can you hear us?
Oh, hey, sorry, y'all can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry about that. What was the question?
All right, you can hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now. Sorry about that.
You have a request for an RFP for the design of DPW uniforms. Could you explain why we need this?
So the idea that we had was we had some discussions within the department, some of the guys in the field, some of the foremen. With Mount Vernon having a lot of local designers and stuff like that, they were looking to see if we could do something different with the actual design of the uniforms. As we have it right now, the guys receive a stipend every year for about $1,300, but there's never been a standard uniform policy in place for DPW. We've been working on trying to establish it across the board, but there's always been difficulties with that. Different from the water department, where they have a voucher and they have a standard uniform that they receive. Our guys receive actual check stipends every year for the annual uniforms. So we've been working together. It's just an idea that we thought of, and some of the local designers in our community actually reached out and proposed some ideas. But as we know, with the procurement policy, we can't just enter into a contract or an agreement with those designers.
So do you have a ballpark of the price range for this design?
Not of as at this point. That was the purpose of the RFP. But the actual purchasing of the uniforms is the responsibility of the employees, which is they're paid for with their stipends.
Oh, yeah, I got that part. Okay. Anyone else? Any other questions?
I mean, we don't have anybody in-house that could do something like this? Oh,
Not to
did
my
he not
knowledge.
hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. Not to my knowledge, so I don't know.
Okay. So you, what about Frankie? Doesn't he have a design degree?
I don't know about a degree. He does a lot of the t-shirt designs for us, but never in the sense of actual safety uniforms.
Okay, so, but we're just looking to, this RFP would be the development. Really, are you? Would the person, I read through it, but would the person who designed it will also be the one making the uniforms? It's not two different things. It's design and construction.
Design and manufacturing, correct.
Commissioner Bush?
Yes.
Council President?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can understand the manufacturing part of it. I do believe that you have personnel here that can do the design, but that's just my thoughts.
Commissioner Bush, when you say safety uniforms, who are we talking about? Yes, the safety uniforms. You break that down for me.
All of our DPW field employees, the sanitation workers, the highway guys, pretty much everybody that works out in the field for DPW. The idea came from New York City. They actually did something similar to this about 2 years ago.
Council President asks if you have an example of New York City's uniform
that you could share.
Yeah, I can share that with you. Yep.
Thank you. So this is on the agenda. Item number 6, I have an ordinance declaring an emergency for a contract award to Environics, Group Architects, PC for condition assessment reports for various city of Mount Vernon municipal buildings. So Commissioner Bush, can you hear me again? All right. So why are we doing another assessment? Why can't we just go out to RFP and for our RFP for all of the buildings and have the contractors come out and assess the building and tell us what the scope of work will be?
So 2 parts to that. The first part is when we first got these actual engineering condition assessment reports, we did not have the amount of money that we needed or funding that we needed to get these projects done. And that was done back in 2021 and 2022. Present day now, we do have multiple funding sources ranging from HUD, CDBG, and the HUD Section 108 loan and ARPA. Now, according to our planning department, Deputy Commissioner Sylvia Bolivar, the reports have to be completed within a 6-month time range. So the reports that we have right now, many of them exceed that time range. And according to the funding sources, we won't be eligible to use them. So the idea was to, as opposed to, because we're in a short timeline as well right now to get these projects done. And we've been having various meetings about the Section 108 loan. But in order to get those done, as opposed to going to hiring a new engineering firm, which would have to start from scratch, it made sense for us to re-engage the engineering firm that previously did it, just to update those reports and to add on the additional buildings citywide. And that's how we got to this point now where it's a shorter timeline. And I had previously provided it to all the council members as well too.
Yeah, so I guess what the letter is asking us to do is declare an emergency, right? And there's no emergency, so we're going to declare emergency just because we want to get it done quicker. And that's not how the emergencies work. But inside the procurement policy, you could provide justification, right, for why we want, why we're not going out for RFP. So I think what I would recommend is you redo the letter to reflect the justification as opposed to us declaring an emergency. Is that
Understood.
clear?
Yeah, it was some other conversations with the chief of staff. I'll follow up with him and the mayor, but I do hear your point with that, and I can revise it to reflect that.
Okay. Awesome. So when we spend $263,000, you're saying right now we have the money to fix all the buildings?
I wish. It's still gonna be a longer timeline, but as of right now, I think the award letter just came out about a week ago. There's about $8 million from the Section 108 loan, as well as some additional funding in ARPA. And it also ties into the whole capital plan projects as well too. So with all this funding on the table, of course, we have to start with the critical items. And the good thing about this report is it does break down what the critical top tier items are, and then from secondary to tertiary. So it does give us a pretty much a game plan on what we need to focus on in terms of all of our municipal buildings.
So my concern is, I guess let me just be clear about that, is that we do this report, we don't have enough money to do all the buildings, and then we have another stale assessment for when additional funding comes in. So have we been able to prioritize from the city's standpoint, the most important buildings so that we can assess those as opposed to spending money on the buildings that we don't consider a priority?
We could do that, but that's kind of how we got to this point. It's been a back and forth on what is a priority and what is not internally. So the best way to do it is to hire the experts who can thoroughly go through each building and then give us the outline and say, hey, this is a top priority, this is critical. You guys need to get this done right away, and then break it down from there. Because otherwise we'll continue just going back and forth, whether it's Station 4, whether it's Station 1, whether it's the PD roof HVAC system, whether it's, I don't know, every facility that we have right now. But I'd rather just look at the condition assessment reports, which are thorough and detailed, and then take that information and move forward from there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So that is gonna be agenda pending.
Just for clarity, one more second. You said, so within the procurement policy, there is language in there?
Yeah, section 6 addresses professional services, and it talks about providing justification if you can't go out for RFP.
Understood. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Councilman Potteet?
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. Commissioner Bush, how are you today?
Watching this Jets game. Sorry about that.
I'm not.
I'm hoping
So there's two questions that I have. First is, I understand why we should hire the firm for the reports that were previously done. But for the new ones that we're going to be doing, like City Hall, Fire Station number 1, Fire Station number 2, what's the rationale for hiring this firm at all, and versus going to a new firm or going to an RFP to get bids from other firms to then do those properties?
goes back to the deadline on the funding. I can get that exact date from the planning department. If I'm not mistaken, it might be the end of this year where we have to have it allocated, or the project has to be established. But it goes back to timing right now. That is an option. You know, if we want to do that in terms of the new additional buildings, we would have to release a new RFP, which could take, 60 to 90 days just before we get started with the actual condition assessments. So it's just a matter of the timing issues with the funding that is available. Now, with that said, though, just for clarity, these condition assessment reports do not state that this engineering firm will be responsible for the project management. If we decide to establish, or whatever capital projects we decide to go after, we can bring on additional or release an RFP to hire different project managers for each project. So these engineers we're not married to them, pretty much. We're just asking them to complete these reports so we know what we're working with.
Got it. So just to be clear and for the record, that we're just paying for the engineering reports, we're not paying for project
Management,
service, management services.
that is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Brown?
I do have another question. It's not related to this tally sheet. Commissioner Bush, we're coming up on December 31st, right? Where we need to obligate the ARPA funds that the federal government has provided us. I know we had broadband in our ARPA budget, and I know RFPs take forever and a day in the city. So I wanted to know if you could provide us with an update on the citywide broadband project and when that will be going out for RFP so that we can obligate the funds as necessary.
I'm not too familiar with that. That was coming through management services, but I will follow up with Commissioner Perez to find out what the status is.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions regarding item number 6? I'm sorry, item number 5? Is that agenda or agenda pending? Agenda? Okay, I wrote that down. And item number 6, this is agenda pending. Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Brown. Clerk Walters.
All right, item number 7, I can't wait to get back to council chambers. Item number 7 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute the first amended funding agreement with the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. That's on the agenda. Item number 8, I have an ordinance directing the mayor to enter into a contract with CGR, Center for Governmental Research, for the operational analysis of the Law and Buildings Department. That is on the agenda. Item number 9, I have a resolution honoring Joanne Dunn at the Westchester Black Bar Association's annual gala. That's on the agenda. Item number 10, a resolution honoring the Honorable Janet C. Malone, JSC, at the Westchester Black Bar Association's annual gala. I have item number 11, a resolution honoring New York City District Attorney Alvin L. Bragg Jr. at the
I'll tell you why later.
at the Westchester Black Bar Association's annual gala. I have an ordinance authorizing, that's on the agenda. Item number 12, an ordinance authorizing the transfer of funds to cover 2023 election-related costs. That is on the agenda. I believe that concludes
That does.
my report, Council President.
Okay, Councilman Thompson, Human Resources.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item number 13 from the Recreation Department, an ordinance enabling the mayor to enter into a contract with Westchester County for the senior nutrition contract. That's on the agenda. Item number 14 from the Youth Bureau, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to retroactively enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the Westchester County Youth Bureau for the 2024 Summer Youth Employment Program and Training Program, which is July 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2024, which is on the agenda. And I'm going to answer your questions before you ask. Thank you. I spoke with Dr. Burrell, if you will. I'm putting that out there. And so it was just an oversight on her part. She has 2 new programs and they serviced over 400 youth. She missed our August meeting by 2 days. So she had to submit this into our September meeting. So that's why it's retroactively. So hopefully I don't have to beat y'all up or anything like that.
And you advised.
No, that's on the agenda.
You advised her that if she has
Yes.
any issues.
Right, that's, yeah.
This was from July, so the August meeting would have been too late anyway.
After the July meeting. Right. this letter came in after the July meeting. It was just an oversight on her part because they dealt with two new programs. They serviced over 400 youth. And she was gonna bring this forward for the August meeting. But she missed that meeting by 2 days, so that's why I submitted in September. Okay, so hopefully it's all right with all of you.
Okay, Councilwoman Brown?
No more questions.
Probably my last two. For item number 13, this referral letter doesn't speak to the contract. There's no explanation of the contract. There's no contract. What they say is a contract is the email to Ms. Gatson, who hasn't been here for a long time. Can you give us an explanation?
Okay, so do we want to make this agenda pending or you want it on the agenda?
It's on the agenda.
Okey doke.
Item number 15, I'm gonna do items 15 through, I'm sorry, I'm gonna read them all, but items 15 to 22, these are all resolutions honoring persons, and they will all be on the agenda. Item number 15 is a resolution honoring James Frank Rousen. 16 is honoring Loretta J. Hollinger. 17 is honoring Jennifer Vadroska. I hope I'm not messing up her name. 18 is honoring Amira Roberts. 19 is honoring Lieutenant Krista Mann. 20 is honoring Linda L. Jacobs. 21 is honoring Hudson Valley Links, Inc. of Westchester County. And 22 is honoring Sydney Duncombe, and all of those are through YCOP. And that's all I have. All of those will be on the agenda. I don't have any add-ons.
Okay, for item number 14,
Yes.
I would like you to change that to agenda pending until we get some questions answered, like if they can send us the agreement over. Was it 13?
No, that she's talking about the 14, the youth borough.
Yeah, the Youth Bureau,
Yeah,
the Summer Youth
14.
Employment Program and Training Program, where.
I'm putting on the agenda, but I'll get you the
Okay, but yeah,
additional
just, I wanna
information
see the
tomorrow.
agreement. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Going
here.
Forward, Public Safety and Codes, Councilman Potteet.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Council President. Item number 23 will be on the agenda from the Department of Buildings and Ordinance declaring imminent danger for an emergency demolition of unsafe building located at 19 South Terrace Avenue. Item number 24 will be on the agenda from the Department of Buildings and Ordinance amending number 24 from June 26, 2024 regarding establishing multi-dwelling fees.
Question?
Sure.
For this one, Councilman Potteet, if you read the letter, it says it's changing it to fire inspection per building with more than 10 dwelling units per 10 dwelling units, $250. What does that mean?
Let me punch it up 1 second. Fire inspection per building with more than 10 dwelling units per 10 dwelling units. I understand it as, but I'll speak to the commissioner about this.
She's online, I believe. The deputy is online.
Go ahead, Clerk Russell. Do you have a microphone?
Yes, I'm here.
This was brought up in a referral meeting, and the only amendment here is the fee, right, from 500 to 250, I believe. It was 500 first, and they're changing it to 250. So I'm not sure if the dwelling wording or verbiage is a typo, but DC Mamek is on line. DC Mamek?
Okay,
Yes.
so before DC Mamek speaks, one of the questions that was asked at that meeting was whether we had done a canvas of other municipalities to make sure that these fees were in line with everybody else. So I just want to make sure I put that out there. Deputy Commissioner Mamek, unless Councilman Potteet, can you answer that question?
No, and
So
since
then let's,
DC Mamet, why don't we have
okay,
her?
let's get straight to DC Mamet.
Can everyone hear me?
Hold on. Can I speak? Okay, DC Mamet, did you hear the question?
Yes, I have. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. The question was, did we question the neighbor municipalities in regards to their fees for these inspections? Yes, we have with several municipalities. Their fees are way higher than our fees. This is the initial fee schedule that we put together because we didn't have these fees in our fee schedule for a long time. Moving forward, we will provide you copies of our neighboring municipalities to show how much they are charging. If the council agrees with us to increase it for the future years. And this referral, we are proposing to the council because there was a typo, there was a mistake with the original one. That's why we are trying to correct it under the fire department inspection fees, not with the building department, but we are trying to correct it with the fire department inspection fees since we are charging those fees under our application.
Okay, so, hold on, can I talk? Okay. Can you please read your referral letter? Because it doesn't read that way.
And just to clarify or
And-
piggyback off what Council President Gleason said, the way that I read it, and this could be very wrong, where it says fire inspection per building with more than 10 dwelling units per 10 dwelling units. So if it's a 10 dwelling unit building, you would charge 250. If it's a 20 dwelling unit building, you would charge 500, and so on and so forth. Was that the intent of the
Yeah.
language or something else?
DC Mamet?
Can everyone hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, so there is a first portion of these fee schedules. I'm not sure if it was proposed to the council when we submit the amendment. The fees are reading this way. Up to 250, up to 10 dwelling units, we are charging 250. About 10 dwelling units, we are charging $250 per each 10 dwelling units.
That's
So
not right.
overall, this is how we are trying to do. We are charging $25 per dwelling unit. I can definitely provide you the original with the first section of this fee schedule. That might clear the questions.
Councilwoman Brown?
No, I think what we're trying to do, the same confusion that we have here is what the public is going to have. So if we can have the language reflect, so if we can say $250 per 10 units, that may be more clear, so that there's no confusion or no one upset that they thought that it was a typo, right? If we can clear that language up, I think that'd be helpful.
Any other questions?
One other question that I have, just to clarify this. If someone has a 15-unit building, would you charge them 250 or would you charge them 500 in this schedule?
I'm gonna go ahead and say 500, but I have to double check the way that we set the fee schedule in our system.
Okay.
Please, I understand that it sounds complicated. It's our first time trying to do these inspections and first time trying to charge these fees in our fairly new system. I'm gonna go ahead and double check that information and provide you the answer on that.
Understood. And also, if it's easier just to say $25 per dwelling unit, that might get you there too, but thanks.
Any other questions? Moving on.
Okay, item number 25 for information purposes from Consumer Protection. August 2024 monthly report. Item number 26 from the fire department that will be on the agenda and ordinance.
Hold
All-
on, 1 second. We have a question?
So why would we give a leave of absence for this position? Do we not need someone in that position while, oh, Jesus, while this person is, doing probationary fire?
So. Oh. Okay. Commissioner Norman. Yeah.
Commissioner Norman? Commissioner Norman, if you're on mute, can you come off? All right, well, Councilman Potteet, my question is, do we not need a motor equipment operator? And if so, why would we give a leave of absence for a position that we need to fill?
Yep, the short answer is I don't know, but I can find out by Wednesday. So we can make this item agenda pending, and then I'll have the answer Wednesday, if that's the pleasure of the council.
So I'd like to just interject on that.
Sure.
Okay, usually the leave of absence is granted just in case the firefighter does not make it through firefighter school. My understanding is that in the meantime, while he's in firefighter school, they can provisionally
Can you
hire
hear me?
somebody. She's on?
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Okay,
you all hear me?
Commish, you're on.
I'm sorry, I was having difficulty getting off mute. That is correct, Council President. I spoke with, he's currently a Teamster, or he was, and he requested it and he's entitled to. And while he's going to the academy, which is the 4 months, that's why we're granting him a leave of absence.
And my understanding, when this has happened prior in the police department and the fire department, they can hire provisionally.
Correct.
Not prevent-
Correct.
And it's up to the employee whether the employee decides to come for 4 months and potentially have 12 months, so.
Correct. I did.
Then item number.
Wait, Commissioner speaking.
I did check with the HR as well as his union leadership at the which he was a Teamster, and that is all correct. So I cleared that, and he requested in writing a letter, and we authorized it.
Yep,
Are you good?
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. So item number 26. So item number 26 will be on the agenda. Item number 27 from Public Safety, also on the agenda. And ordinance authorizing the transfer of funds to cover budget lines with negative balances to the Department of Public Safety. And item number 28 is for information purposes only from Department of Public Safety, the July 2024 monthly report. Item number 29, sorry, I have 2 more items. From Public Safety, and ordinance requesting that the City Council to authorize the Chief of Police to attend the 2024 Mayors Against Illegal Guns Summit taking place in Baltimore, Maryland from September 26th to September 27th. Will be on the agenda.
Hold on 1 sec.
Sure.
Do we have any questions regarding that?
I do.
Okay.
So how's he getting there? Does he not need a city car or transportation costs?
I don't know. I can find out. And
If so, you should probably include it in this letter.
I don't know. So in the interim, do we want to make item number 29 AP agenda? pending?
Yes.
All right. With that, nope.
Hold on 1 sec. We're not moving on yet. I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
see.
Council President want to know if there's an agenda also for this
Sure.
limit?
Yeah.
Just 1 second.
Go ahead, you could say it again. It's okay. I mean, if we have it, just load it. That's fine. But in the meantime, let's just make sure that we have it, right? Because we're gonna be asked from the public and we should also know what it involves. Any
And-
other questions?
Oh, item number.
Okay, moving on.
Got it. Item number 30 will be on the agenda as well. Office of the City Clerk and ordinance authorizing the amendment of chapter 237-35 A and B of the City Code of the City of Mount Vernon entitled Taxi Cab Fares to increase current fares. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Moving on to Finance and Planning, Councilman Box Hill.
Thank you, Madam President. Number 31, Office of the Controller and ordinance authorizing the controller's attendance and funding for the 2024 NICOM Fall Training School. That is on the agenda.
Any questions?
I wish they would have this, I mean, I know the state has their fiscal calendar, but this is like smack dead in the middle of our budget season, so otherwise I would like to attend this conference as well, but maybe next time.
Well, I think that we approved. Can't we transfer it over or you can't go?
You can't go.
Oh, you can't go. Sorry.
Yeah, the timing.
Okay. All right. With that being said, are there any questions, comments, any announcements that anybody would like to make, even though it's a work session and we'd like to limit our. Okay, so go right ahead. Voter registration. We got our clerk here who's going to update everybody once again.
Thank you, Council President Gleason. I just want to remind everyone that the election season is drawing near. We have voter registration at City Hall on September 28th from 12 noon to 9 p.m. and again on October 10th from 12 noon to 9 p.m. So you have 2 times where you could come out and register to vote if you have not already done so. And early voting starts October 26th here at City Hall and over by the Dole Center as well. So please come out, register to vote.
Excellent. I also want to remind Mount Vernon that we will be honoring our very own Olympic gold medalist, Rai Benjamin, tomorrow. There are multiple events tomorrow, starting at the high school where there will be a meet and greet and he will be inducted into the Wall of Fame at Mount Vernon High School. Then we're going to move outside to renaming of the Mount Vernon High School track after Rai Benjamin. That'll be at 9:45. Then there will be a motorcade throughout the city. Begins at 10:15. And we land at Memorial Field for a 1 o'clock presentation by city officials honoring our Olympic gold, multi-medalist, Rai Benjamin. So I hope that everybody can come out or at least come out of your house, you know, beep your horns when you see us going through the city with our very own Olympic medalist. Does anybody else have anything to say? Oh, okay, Councilman Box Hill.
Also tonight, we wanted to recognize Janice Duarte, former Councilwoman Janice Duarte. Her grandmother passed away this past Monday, and the services were tonight where she laid her grandmother to rest. So we just wanted to keep her in our thoughts. That's all I had.
Councilman Thompson.
Yes, I was gonna convey that message as well. Thank you, Box Hill. Also, one of our school parent liaisons passed away as well, Miss Davita James. Yes, she passed away. Her services were on yesterday. And they had the services in Brooklyn, but her family still lives here in Mount Vernon. And also today we lost James Earl Jones. So just keep families in prayer, because as life is lifing, we have to make sure that we're there for one another. Okay? Thanks.
All right, with that being said, we'll see you all on Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. We have 2 public hearings starting at 7 o'clock. Code enforcement and short-term rentals. So if you have something to say, come out. You do not have to sign up to speak at that public hearing, but we do want to hear from everybody. If you cannot come to the meeting, please make sure you go online and email the clerk at twalters@cmvny.com or twalters@mountVernonNewYork.org. .gov. cmvny.com will still get you there. Anyway, have a good night, Mount Vernon. Thank you for hanging with us.